The human colonies on Earth had always been underestimated by the galactic powers. For centuries, Earth had watched as alien species expanded their reach across the stars. They saw themselves as superior, their technology far more advanced, their ships faster, and their weapons more powerful. To the aliens, humans were just a young, primitive species still learning how to survive on their own world. The leaders of the three largest galaxies looked down on humanity with a sense of quiet amusement. They saw the humans as a curiosity, a species that had somehow made it this far, but still had much to learn. Earth had tried for years to join the Intergalactic Council. They wanted to be a part of the galactic community, to show that humanity was more than just a small, insignificant species. But every time they tried, their pleas were met with laughter and mockery. The Council, made up of representatives from the three galaxies, had long ago decided that Earth was too unimportant to be considered a real threat. "They're not even worth our time," one of the leaders had said, shaking his head with a smirk. "Let them play with their little ships and guns. They can't possibly be a real threat to us." And so Earth had been ignored. Despite their best efforts, the human fleets were constantly outmatched by the alien warships. Their ships were smaller, slower, and their weapons, though powerful by human standards, were no match for the advanced technology of the galactic empires. One day, a human diplomat named John Harper was sent to the council once again, hoping that this time things might be different. He knew the odds were against him, but he still had hope. He had spent years preparing a case to present to the council proof that humanity could hold its own, that they were capable of more than the aliens thought. His team had gathered all the data, all the evidence they could find. But as he stepped into the council chamber, he could already feel the judgment in the air. The council members sat high above him, their alien eyes watching him with a mixture of curiosity and disdain. The head of the council, a towering figure from the Zrethian Empire, leaned forward, his cold gaze fixed on Harper. "Ah, Earth's representative. Tell me, Harper, why do you insist on wasting our time with these ... requests?" The Zrethian's voice was sharp, almost condescending. "You do realize that your people are nothing compared to the power we possess, don't you?" Harper stood, tall, trying to hide his nervousness. He had expected this, but it still stung. "We may be new to the galactic stage, but we are growing. We have technology and strength that can help unite this galaxy, that can change the balance of power. We ask only for a place at the table." The other council members laughed, their voices echoing in the grand chamber. A small alien with large purple eyes from the Corella system spoke next. "You are nothing but a group of children playing. At war, your fleet is a joke. Your technology, primitive. You should be thankful we even allow you to sit in this room." Another voice chimed in from a member of the Arcolian race, a species known for their cold logic and brutal honesty. "You think your fleet, what 500 ships, can rival us? Even with your best weapons, you stand no chance against the might of the Galaxian Empire." Harper's heart sank, but he refused to give up. He held up a datapad showing images of human ships, massive advanced vessels that humanity had built in secret. They were not just warships, they were dreadnoughts, the most powerful ships ever constructed by humankind. Ships that could devastate entire fleets, each equipped with weapons designed to destroy even the toughest of enemies. "The ships we have built may seem small to you," Harper said, his voice steady, "but they are stronger than you can imagine. They are built to take on any threat, galactic or otherwise. Please consider what we have to offer." The room fell silent. For a moment it seemed like they might actually listen. But then the Zrethian leader scoffed and waved his hand dismissively. "Enough of this nonsense," he growled. "You waste our time, human. Your ships will never match ours. Your strength is nothing. Go back to your world and stay there. We have no use for you." Harper felt a wave of frustration wash over him, but he forced himself to keep calm. He had come here with hope, with belief that humanity could make a difference, but the council's mockery was too much. They had already made up their minds. He could feel the weight of their superiority pressing down on him, and it was clear that Earth would never be taken seriously. As Harper left the council chamber, The laughter of the alien leaders echoed in his ears. He had failed. But what he didn't know was that the failure would only be the beginning. Back on Earth, deep within the most secretive corners of the human military, the engineers and commanders were preparing something far beyond what the Council could imagine. Something that would change the course of history. Earth's time was coming in when it did. The galaxies would wish they had never laughed at humanity. On Earth, the meeting with the Galactic Council was a crushing blow. The leaders of the three galaxies had laughed at humanity's efforts, mocking the very idea that Earth could ever be a real power in the galaxy. Yet, while the Council continued to mock humanity, deep within Earth's secret military facilities, something far greater was taking shape. For years, humanity had been quietly working on a secret project, far beyond anything the Council could have imagined. Scientists, engineers, and military commanders had been constructing a fleet of ships, each one larger and more powerful than anything the galaxy had ever seen. These ships were not just military vessels, they were dreadnoughts, the most advanced warships in existence. Designed to withstand and destroy entire fleets, the secret program, known only to a select few, had been started long before Earth's failed attempts to join the Galactic Council. When Earth's pleas for respect were rejected, the leaders of Earth decided to take matters into their own hands. They knew that the galaxy saw them as weak, but they had something that the aliens did not: the spirit and determination of humanity. Commander Julia Mitchell, the leader of the secret project, had been working on the dreadnoughts for nearly 2 decades. She had spent her entire career developing the technology, and now, as the first of the dreadnoughts neared completion, she was filled with both excitement and fear. She knew what they had created. The dreadnoughts were powerful beyond measure, and they would be humanity's answer to the galactic mockery. "What's the status on the fleet?" Commander Mitchell asked as she walked through the sprawling underground facility where the ships were being built. "Almost ready, Commander," replied Lieutenant Brian Harper, her most trusted officer. "The final adjustments are being made. Now, the weapons systems are calibrated, and the shields are functioning at full capacity. In another 2 weeks, we'll be ready for deployment." Mitchell nodded, her eyes narrowing in determination. "We can't wait any longer. The Council has mocked us for the last time. It's time to show them what we're capable of." The two walked through the massive hangar, their footsteps echoing against the metallic floor. Around them, giant warships hovered in various stages of completion. The dreadnoughts were massive, each one designed to be a fortress in space, able to take on entire fleets. Every ship was equipped with advanced energy weapons, shield generators that could deflect even the strongest of alien fire, and hulls reinforced with materials from Earth's most powerful mining operations. Despite the incredible advancements in technology, the most important feature of the dreadnoughts was the human ingenuity behind them. Every weapon, every system, and every component had been designed and built by humans. Driven by the desire to prove their worth to the galaxy, Lieutenant Harper followed Mitchell to the bridge of the flagship. It's the largest and most powerful of all the dreadnoughts. It was called the Horizon's Wrath. It would be the ship to lead the charge when the time came. "Everything looks good here," Commander Harper said as he checked the systems. "We've got enough firepower on this ship to obliterate an entire fleet. But are we sure we're ready to face them?" Mitchell stared out of the window at the stars, a quiet storm of thoughts swirling in her mind. "We have no choice. The Council has made it clear that they will never accept us. As equals, we have to show them that we are more than just an insignificant species. We have to make them realize that we won't be pushed around anymore." In the days that followed, Earth's military command made the final preparations. The Dreadnought fleet was assembled, and the commanders of each ship were given their orders. Humanity was ready to take its place on the galactic stage. Meanwhile, the Galactic Council continued with its usual affairs, still dismissing Earth as a trivial power. They had no idea what was coming. To them, humanity was still just a joke, a species too young, too weak to make a difference. They couldn't imagine that Earth was capable of building a fleet that could rival their own. But as the dreadnoughts powered up their engines and began their journey towards the heart of the galaxy, A feeling of anticipation swept over Earth. They were about to show the galaxy the power of human determination, and this time, there would be no turning back. The news spread quickly across Earth's colonies, and the citizens of every nation held their breath. The fleet was leaving, and its mission was clear: to prove that humanity was no longer a species to be ignored. As the Dreadnoughts entered the stars, they left behind a world that had once been laughed at, but now carried with it the strength to change the course of history. The Dreadnought fleet, humanity's hidden weapon, was finally ready. As the ships left Earth's orbit, they moved in perfect formation, their massive hulls gleaming under the light of distant stars. On each of the ships, the crew was preparing for the unimaginable, a battle unlike anything they had ever faced. The fate of humanity rested on their shoulders. It was time to show the three galaxies that Earth was not a joke. Commander Julia Mitchell stood on the bridge of the Horizon's Wrath, the flagship of the fleet. She looked out of the large windows at the stars in front of them, the calm before. The storm felt strange, as if the universe itself was holding its breath. "All systems are green," Lieutenant Brian Harper said, his voice steady as he checked the ship's status. "We're ready for deployment, Commander." Mitchell nodded, her face hard with determination. "Good. It's time to make history." The human fleet moved through the void, heading toward the heart of the galaxy. The Council had no idea what was coming. They still believed that humanity was weak, that the human fleet was just a handful of ships. No match for the might of the galactic empires. They could not have been more wrong. Far from Earth, alien empires were focused on their own affairs, dismissing any possibility that humanity could pose a threat. The Zarathian Empire, the Corella Alliance, and the Arcolian Union had grown, comfortable in their power, sure that nothing could challenge their supremacy. But their complacency would soon be shattered. The first target of the human fleet was the Zarathian capital ship, Zarathius Prime, a massive warship that had long been the symbol of the Zarathian Empire's strength. It was on this ship that the Galactic Council had met and mocked humanity just weeks earlier. Now, it would be the first to feel the wrath of Earth's might. The Horizon's Wrath and its fleet of dreadnoughts arrived within range of Zarathus's Prime without warning. The Zarathian captain, unprepared for such an assault, ordered his fleet to raise shields, but it was too late. The human ships unleashed their full power. "All guns, fire at will," Commander Mitchell ordered, her voice cold and commanding. The human dreadnoughts opened fire. The sky exploded with the brilliance of their energy weapons. The blasts from the Horizon's Wrath tore through the Zarathian shields, and the first volley of fire hit the Zarathus Prime with devastating force. The Zarathian ship shook as if it were a fragile toy. The crew on board the Zarathius Prime scrambled to respond, but they were no match for the human fleet's advanced weaponry. On the bridge of the Zarathius Prime, the Zarathian captain watched in disbelief as his ship was slowly torn apart by the human assault. How can this be?" he gasped. His confusion was clear, but it was too late to change the outcome. The human fleet pressed on, relentless in their fury. With every blast, the Zarathian ship weakened. The crew was unable to fight back. Wasn't long before the Zarathus Prime was nothing more than a burning husk in space. The rest of the Zarathian fleet tried to retaliate, but they were far outmatched. The human dreadnoughts were simply too powerful, their weapons too advanced, their tactics too unpredictable. One by one, the Zarathian ships fell. The once proud empire was crushed in a matter of hours, all thanks to the fury of humanity's dreadnoughts. "Victory is ours," Lieutenant Harper said, his voice filled with awe. They never saw it coming. Commander Mitchell looked out at the wreckage of the Zarathian fleet. It was a victory, but it was only the beginning. The other galaxies had to know what Earth was capable of. The message had to be clear: humanity was no longer a primitive species. They were a force to be reckoned with. As the human fleet moved toward their next target, the leaders of the Galactic Council were in a panic. They had heard the reports of the destruction of the Zarathian fleet, but they refused to believe it. At first, the idea that humanity could be so powerful was unthinkable. The leaders of the Corella Alliance gathered in their war room, watching in disbelief as the news of humanity's attack spread across the galaxy. It cannot be true, one of the Corella leaders said, his voice shaking. The Zarathians are not weak. How could they fall so easily? The Arcolian leader, known for his cold logic, spoke next. We underestimated them. They have weapons we do not understand. We must act now, before it is too late.
Oh.
But it was already too late. The human dreadnoughts had already proven their power. No longer would the galaxy mock Earth. No longer would humanity be seen as weak. The message had been sent. The next time, the Galactic Council laughed at humanity's strength. They would remember the Horizon's wrath and the destruction it had brought to the Zarathian Empire. The victory over the Zarathian fleet sent shockwaves throughout the galaxy. No one could believe what had just happened. The mighty Zarathian Empire, once seen as the strongest power in the galaxy, had been crushed by humanity's newly revealed Dreadnought fleet. The entire galaxy was stunned, and rumors of humanity's power spread like wildfire. The leaders of the other galactic empires who had once laughed at Earth and called humans primitive were now in a state of panic. They couldn't believe it. How could a species they had dismissed as weak and insignificant wipe out one of the most powerful fleets in the galaxy in a matter of hours? Back on Earth, Commander Julia Mitchell stood on the bridge of the Horizons, wrath staring at the vast emptiness of space. The battle with the Zarathians had been a clear victory, but she knew their work was far from done. There were still 2 more empires that needed to understand that humanity was no longer a species to be underestimated. The human fleet had proven their strength, but the fight was only just beginning. We've done it, Commander, Lieutenant Brian Harper said, breaking her thoughts. We've sent a message. The Zarathians are defeated, and the galaxy knows what we're capable of. Mitchell nodded, but remained focused. Wait. This is just the beginning. We need to keep pushing forward. The Corella and Arcolians won't just sit back and let us take over. They will retaliate, and we need to be ready. As the human dreadnoughts moved through space, the leaders of the Corella Alliance were already taking action. The destruction of the Zarathian fleet with growing fear, and they knew they could no longer afford to ignore humanity's power. They called an emergency meeting to discuss their response. The humans have shown they can defeat the Zarathians. One of the Corella leaders said, his voice tense. We cannot allow them to become a real threat to us. We must prepare for war. In the Arcolian Union, the response was the same. The Arcolians were known for their calm and logical thinking, but even they could not deny the scale of humanity's strength. They had watched the human dreadnoughts destroy the Zarathian fleet and knew they had to act fast. We need to combine our forces, an Arcolian leader said. If we don't, humanity will overpower us. We must fight together or be destroyed individually. While the leaders of the Corella and Arcolian empires scrambled to put together a united front, humanity's dreadnought fleet continued its journey through the galaxy. The human fleet's message had been heard loud and clear, and now it was time to take action. The human fleet set its sights on the next target, the Corella homeworld. The Corella Alliance had been a powerful force in the galaxy for centuries, and it was time to show them that humanity was not to be ignored. The Horizon's wrath and its fleet of dreadnoughts moved toward the Corella system, knowing that this would be their next challenge. As they approached the Corella homeworld, the human fleet was met with resistance. Corella had prepared their defenses, but they were no match for the advanced technology of the dreadnoughts. The first battle was swift and brutal. Corella fleet, although large and well-armed, stood no chance against the precision and firepower of the human ships. The human dreadnoughts unleashed their fury once again, tearing through the Corella fleet with devastating power. The Corella ships exploded one by one, their shields unable to hold against the onslaught. The human ships moved through the battlefield with precision, their weapons cutting through the Corella forces like a knife through butter. On the bridge of the Horizon's wrath, Commander Mitchell watched the battle unfold. Her heart raced, but her mind stayed calm. This was what they had trained for. This was their purpose. Enemy fleet in full retreat, Lieutenant Harper reported. We've broken their defenses. Mitchell gave a small nod, but she didn't smile. The battle was won, but the war was far from over. The Corella Alliance had been defeated, but the Arcolian Union was still a threat. Humanity had proven their power. But the galaxy was not going to give up easily. The word spread quickly throughout the galaxy. Humanity had defeated two of the greatest empires in a matter of weeks. The three galaxies that had once mocked Earth now had no choice but to take humanity seriously. The Galactic Council's laughter had turned to fear. They now understood that humanity was no longer the weak, primitive species they once thought them to be. As the human fleet prepared for the final confrontation with the Arcolian Union, Commander Mitchell stood at the helm of the Horizon's Wrath, looking out at the stars. She knew that the future of humanity would depend on this final battle. But no matter the cost, humanity would no longer be silenced. The time of mockery was over. It was their time now. The battle with the Corella Alliance had been decisive. The Corella fleet, despite its size and strength, had been shattered under the relentless power of humanity's dreadnoughts. Commander Julia Mitchell stood on the bridge of the Horizon's Wrath, watching the aftermath unfold. The Corella forces had been pushed back, and their once proud fleet lay in ruins. Humanity's message was clear. They were no longer the primitive species the galaxy had once mocked. They were a force to be reckoned with, and the galaxy could no longer ignore them. But even as humanity celebrated its victory, the final challenge remained the Arcolian Union. The Arcolians were known for their strategic brilliance and calculated thinking. They were not a species to be taken lightly, and Mitchell knew that defeating them would not be as simple as the battles with the Zarathians and Corella. The Arcolian leaders had already begun fortifying their positions, preparing for a war they could not avoid. But the human fleet was ready. The Dreadnoughts, now battle-hardened and led by the best commanders humanity had to offer, moved toward the Arcolian homeworld. The time for diplomacy had long passed. There would be no more mocking, no more underestimating humanity. The galaxy would have to accept Earth's place at the table. As the human fleet entered the Arcolian system, the Arcolians prepared for battle. They had gathered their forces, a massive fleet of advanced warships, but even they knew that the odds were not in their favor. They had seen the destruction of the Zarathian and Corella fleets, and they understood that humanity's dreadnoughts were a new kind of power. The Arcolian leadership, once confident in their own superiority, now felt the cold grip of fear. "We have no choice," an Arcolian commander said, his voice tight with worry. "We fight, or we surrender to them. We will not go down without a fight." The Arcolian fleet engaged humanity's dreadnoughts with everything they had. The space around the Arcolian homeworld lit up with the brilliance of battle. The Arcolian ships, although formidable, were no match for the human dreadnoughts. The precision and firepower of the human fleet overwhelmed the Arcolians. Their shields buckling under the first wave of fire, the Horizon's Wrath and the other dreadnoughts moved with ruthless efficiency, their weapons tearing through the Arcolian fleet. It was a one-sided battle. The Arcolian ships fought valiantly, but their efforts were futile against the overwhelming might of humanity's warships. Enemy ships in retreat. Commander Lieutenant Brian Harper reported, "The Arcolian fleet is breaking apart." Stood tall, her gaze never leaving the battle, pushed forward. "We need to finish this." As the Arcolian ships fled, their homeworld within reach, the remaining Arcolian leaders realized that their empire was on the brink of collapse. Humanity had proven that they were not to be underestimated. Earth had shown that it was a new power in the galaxy, one that would not be easily toppled. And then, as if to make the point final, a transmission was sent to the Arcolian leaders. It was from Commander Mitchell herself. "This is Commander Julia Mitchell of the human fleet. She," said her voice calm but unwavering, "you are defeated. Your empire will fall, just as the Zarathians and Corella have fallen. Humanity will no longer be ignored. You have two choices: surrender or face the same fate as the others." The silence on the other end of the transmission was deafening. The Arcolian leaders, once so confident in their power, now had no words. The reality had set in. They were no longer the ones in control, the human fleet. Now victorious over the three galactic empires, stood as a symbol of strength. The once mock species had proven that they were more than capable of holding their own. The galaxy would never be the same again. Humanity had taken its place among the stars, and no one could deny it any longer, in the aftermath of the battle. As the dust settled and the wreckage of the Arcolian fleet drifted through space, Commander Mitchell stood on the bridge, looking out at the vastness of the galaxy. Earth had achieved the impossible. The three galactic empires that had once mocked them were now gone. Humanity had shown that even the most powerful empires could fall when they underestimated a species determined to rise. But Micho knew this victory was only the beginning. Humanity had proven its power, but now it would have to navigate the complexities of galactic politics. The next challenge would be to maintain this newfound strength and ensure that Earth's place in the galaxy was secure. As the fleet turned toward home, Mitchell felt a sense of pride and accomplishment. They had done it. The day of humanity's reckoning had come, and the galaxy would never forget the fury unleashed by Earth's Dreadnought fleet.